thing you can count on when a big blockbuster hits, if there are embedded fanboys to that blockbuster, they're going to love this movie regardless of what it's like. Of course, I speak of Dune Part 2. Now, if you go on to the interwebs and you check postings there, oh, people are falling all over themselves. This is the greatest movie ever made. It's wonderful. Everything you wanted is Dune, and Frank Herbert should be praised as a dean. When you're a bona fide film critic, you get neat little things like this. This is Dune. This is 1,000 pages, okay, of Dune. Not only do we have Dune in here, book 1, 2, and 3, but we've got we have appendixes in here on all the religions of Dune, the ecology of Dune. We have culture of Dune, all kind of terminology, maps of Dune. Afterwards, there's more Dune in here than you could possibly ever want to digest. All right? And the same holds true for this movie. As cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor. Is it? Greetings, salutations, another sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. And folks, it is definitely time for some truth. I laid back on my review for this for a while so that all the fanboys could jump out there and spew all their various diatribes on how wonderful Dune Part 2 is. And now that you have absorbed all of that, and maybe even seen the movie for yourself already, it's time to reveal the truth and talk a little bit about Dune Part 2. One thing I can definitely say, it's a lot better than Dune Part 1. Part 1 was a snooze fest. My God, it was 3 hours of please get to the next scene. Things were dragged out, they were so long. It's almost as if in the first one, everybody forgot how to make a movie and became indies again. It was just so dragged out, so boring, and so repetitious. Well, luckily, this time around, a little bit better. Now, let's start first with the visual. Okay, this movie looks nice, and we want to credit. Let me get names here. Greg Fraser as the director of cinematography for this. He has pieced together some very nice visuals, especially in the action sequences. Little bit of a caveat. We're dealing basically with a desert world. So the visuals are not as amazing and as stunning as, say, Aquaman is, where you have, underwater and lots of vibrant colors and all kinds of neat things going on. So it's not quite up to that level in desert form, but it looks fine. All right. Second thing I want to mention about this is that it moves a lot better, and that is good, and we owe that to Joe Walker, who has paced this one a little bit better than the first one. Now, part of that is because in the script, they have a lot more action sequences. So he's basically tying action sequences together. That will make a movie move a little bit more. But still, this movie is a lot longer than it needs to be. And you could tell at the end they were making random cuts because the ending jam packs a lot of things together. So if you go into the final, let's say 3 reels, which would be roughly 30 to 36 minutes. All right. There's a whole lot of story and it's jam packed in there, whereas the rest of it was like stretched out and allowed to grow and flow. In fact, I'll tell you how bad it got to be at the end where they're chopping things up. Tim Blake Nelson, who was an excellent actor, shot a series of scenes for this movie. He was an unknown character. They're not revealing who he was. And it's a good thing that they're not, because his scenes were all cut. Okay. This happened to two other actors as well who were scheduled to be in this movie. Now, I'm not exactly sure why. I think it was a timing thing. I really do. Could they have trimmed up earlier and put it? Very possibly. And I'm sure you'll find them in the director's cut when that comes out next year or whatever. But they took a quality actor like Tim Blake Nelson, and they just got, it could be that they had seen his latest movie, Asleep in My Palm, which I rated as one of the worst movies of the year. So, and perhaps they said, you know what, after that stinker, we'll just lop him right out of there.
This world is beyond cruelty. You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades. My family's been fighting them for centuries. They were massacred alongside my father.
Your father didn't believe in revenge. We believe in Fremen.
Let me fight beside you.
Reload!
He said that. I got that. Thanks.
I won't be fighting for him. I'm fighting for my people.
You young pup.
Do you believe in Paul?
There are signs. The prophet. Why is that a bad thing? Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
Because you lose control.
Because I gain it. Johnny, do you believe in me?
Paul Atreides is still alive.
Deal with this prophet. Show me who you are. Your father. Was a weak man. Look who's back from the dead.
I will do what must be done.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
I will love you as long as I breathe.
This prophecy is how they enslave us!
It's not a prophecy. It's a story.
I don't care what you believe. I believe. I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Duke of Arrakis, and the Messiah
He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
So you may be a little surprised to find that Christopher Walken comes along and plays the Emperor. And, when you think of the word Emperor, I don't know, you don't think of Joe Biden, okay? And Chris Walken's getting up there in age, so his version of the Emperor is almost as painful as watching Joe Biden. So when he was asked, well, why did you consent to play a role like this, which is a little bit demeaning, again, like Joe Biden, he said, obviously, he got to play the Emperor.
DUNE. And Denis Villeneuve and the actors, a big, great cast. And I get to play the Emperor.
Dave Bautista is back as Beast Rabban, and the Beast is, well, probably not as beastly as the name would suggest. You kind of look at Bautista and you wonder, well, why would someone of that stature want to play a character who can't really live up to the name Beast? And he says it's all because of the reaction.
Well, that's the luxury of this. You're coming back for a sequel. Is I was already there. I already kind of knew who the character was. I had a conversation because the character was more fleshed out. So I had a conversation with Denny right before he started filming, and he said a few things to me, and they just clicked, and I was just ready to go.
So why would Dave come back and play this kind of mamby-pamby character, a pseudo tough guy, if you will? Well, if you hear Dave say it, it's because of the excitement.
I don't know, man. I have a special relationship with him as a director. He's yeah, I don't know. He treats me like I'm a special actor, and that goes a long way with me because I've always had this chip on my shoulder to prove that I was, I wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be a movie star. I wasn't chasing a paycheck. Wasn't after the big blockbuster films. I just wanted to be as good of an actor as I could be. And Denny seems to, he puts me in my comfort zone and he brings out the best in me. So it's just my interaction with Denny that I'll remember the most.
And don't believe any of that nonsense because he was already committed for the paycheck to part 2. And that's why he came back.
It's breathtaking. When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
I don't believe you.
In the shadows of Arrakis lie many secrets. But the darkest of them all may remain. The end of House Atreides. What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
It seems almost every movie that has to do with superheroes or, fantasy, science fiction, that kind of a realm, that Josh Brolin's going to pop in somewhere along the line, and he's back again in part 2. And he claims it's not because his contract told him, of course not. It's because of the epic scope of the movie.
It's fun because between the first movie and the second movie, he just gets angrier and grumpier and all that shit. And he's lost weight, he's let his hair grow out. And then when he meets with the person that he meets with soon thereafter, he's revealed again. You just see this wonderful, vulnerable light come on in his eyes. And it's really nice. There's a little more emotional fluctuation in this one, which I think is fun.
One of the more interesting characters is played by Sohela Yaqub. She plays Shishaki, who is a friend of Zadaina's Chani. And her role isn't what you would call crucial. It's a nice role, and I'm sure she's very happy that she's in this movie. But this is an actress who, and you may not be able to tell from the accent, is Swiss. She's Scandinavian, and her main language is French. And the big thing about being involved in this movie was something that she never sees up in the frozen Scandinavian countries, and that is
when we all arrive. All the DOP, the whole crew. We came all together with our cars, and it was like hundreds and hundreds of cars going to the desert for our first day in the Fremen world. So it was like, okay, this image of everybody it was like we were like the president, like it was something. So we were like, I don't know, it was an amazing feeling, and the location was breathtaking. The desert in Jordan it's infinity.
Have you ever had a dream about your first ride?
Don't try to impress anyone. You're brave, we all know that. Be simple. Be direct. Nothing fancy.
I understand. Nothing fancy.
before, all of the, fanboys get all mad and everything. Zendaya is back again. I like her. She's a very talented actress. Although, she wears a little bit thin in this version of the movie. They have taken her character and molded it somewhat differently than old Frank did in the original book. And you'll see it's to fit in with the cultural mores of today. And I don't think that was necessary. Javier Bardem is back as Star. Josh Brolin is back as Gurney. Dave Bautista is back as Beast Rabon. And one of the biggest problems in this entire movie is Timothy Chalamet. Man, this guy can't pull off this role. I'm sorry. He may be a fine actor, but not in this role. Okay. All right? No matter what you say. Look at all the roles he did in the past. And you know what? I'll even include, what was it, last month's, maybe 2 months ago, his version of Willy Wonka. Even that, okay? This guy is leaning more toward the feminine side of the biological line. Sorry, it's tough to make those guys. Now, people are going to say, oh, but look at the great transformations that have been made. You took a Class B stand-up comedian in Michael Keaton and turned him into Batman. That's true. But you had two things really going well for you. First, you had Tim Burton as a director. Second, you had a costume that covered up most of his face. So even when Batman is in costume, most of that time, it's not Michael Keaton. It's the stunt double who knows how to fight and who can do all those kind of flips and stuff. All right? And then way back in what, 89, 91 for the first two movies? Yes, all the way back then. And when you see him in the latest incarnation in The Flash, it's very easy to tell that's not Mike in there. Okay? So that transformation was a little bit easier with the costume and the director. And then people say, well, what about Keanu Reeves? He went from hang loose, dude, to becoming John. Yeah, okay, true. And he pulled it off because by now everyone knows the type of training and dedication that Reeves put into that role. There are a lot of videos out there showing him training at the school, learning. I mean, he still does this stuff, even though the John Wick franchise is, for all intents and purposes, over. Especially with that stinker of a fourth one, okay? But he still likes that stuff and goes out and does it. So there was a nice transformation. So we're talking maybe one. See, Timothy doesn't have the benefit of a costume that will hide him up and let the stunt guy, who knows what the hell he's doing, get it. When he squares up with his antagonist, and you see him take a stance holding a knife, and you look and you go, oh my God, is he trying ballet? What is he doing? No, he doesn't pull it off. He didn't do it in part one, and he sure as hell doesn't do it in part two.
It's okay. I'm here. It's been a while since you've had one of those nightmares. Tell me, what was it about?
It's only fragments. Nothing's clear.
Send assistance.
Fade Rother. He's psychotic.
I see possible futures all at once. And in so many futures, our enemies prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through.
For a fresh perspective, we should peel back the veil as a time. Head back to the early Cretaceous period for the nation's first and only prehistoric film critic, Rex Reed.
When changing media,
it's advantageous to do proper script editing and shoot accordingly, trying to put all elements of a novel into a film never works. Rewatch the Da Vinci Code for proof. Part 2 better than 1, but still a long overdraw.
Rex and I are of a mind on this one once again. Look, here is the bottom line. If you read Dune, Frank Herbert, and the same thing goes with folks who read Lord of the Rings, all those books with The Hobbit and all that. They just love those characters and everything, that they are just so enamored and so happy to see the visualizations on film. I contend that's probably because as they were reading, they didn't have the imagination to do it on their own. All right? Commentary for today. Unless you're one of those fanatics who must see this because Dune 2 is fine for a look. It's not worth sitting through 2 or 3 times. Absolutely not. If you do that, you're a glutton for punishment, trust me. And, when you put it together with one, oh my God, there's got to be something, anything that you can do with 6 hours of your life that would not be that monotonous. So, bottom line on Dune Part 2, is it better than Part 1? Yes. Yes. And do you have to see Part 1 to see this? No, you really don't. If you just go see Part 2, happy. The movie makes sense by itself, and they fill you in on everything, and you'll pick up on the characters quick enough. Skip 1, go see 2, see it once, and then forget about it. If you really want to get into the world, hey, there's this $1,000 page book. If you like these reviews, don't forget to click that little button that says subscribe, and you will become part of the page. We'd love to have you aboard, and you'll be alerted every time I put up a brand new review. And don't forget to swing by the official Outtake. It's through Redbubble, and you can get a lot of nifty little things there, like these, that you can add and decorate your home and give for gifts. Have a good time. Now that you have learned what you have learned, here it is.